All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us here at the Mining the Northwest virtual conference. We've been going now for 2.5 days. And one of our featured speakers here this morning is Jason Thompson, the owner of Superior Strategies. Jason is going to walk us through his organization and how to promote change through action and to be more inclusive of Indigenous business in the mining supply chain. So Jason, without further ado, the floor is yours, sir, and we look forward to a great presentation.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Kevin. And sorry, folks, I apologize for the delay. It's always interesting when you're joining virtually. Those of you who know me know that I love to speak, I love to present, and yeah, so Chumigwetch for the opportunity. I am coming to you live from Saskatoon in the Treaty 6 area. So again, I welcome the opportunity, and as Kevin mentioned, I am the owner of Superior Strategies and Warrior Supplies. I'm also the owner of Warrior Engineering, which is a full-service environmental engineering company as well as geotechnical. So I've been in business about 12 years. Started out in the health and safety training part of the business. I have a passion for health and safety. My background's in human resources, and we've grown our business to include supplies and other things. So we do sell safety supplies, industrial supplies, and custodial supplies, and have our own line of workwear, which you can see my background is our Warrior brand. One of the things I want to share with you is that the Warrior brand itself is about inclusion. And it's the Warrior in our from our perspective as an Indigenous Ojibwe is the Warrior is the helper, and we are very much about helping. I'm very much about giving back, and I'm proud to say that I'm the president of the SCODA board, which is a group that supports off-reserve Indigenous youth from preschool to high school and post-secondary. So very proud of that. I'm also a member of the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce and first vice chair, so we'll be stepping into the chair's role here in a year or so. And so proud of that. And I'm also proud to say I'm a founding member of the Anishinaabe Business Professional Association. So as you can tell, I don't sit on my hands very long. I love to stay busy. And so that's why it's truly a pleasure, and it's been a pleasure to support this event and really get the message out. I am, from a business perspective, from a personal perspective, I'm very excited about what the future holds for us in Northern Ontario and across Canada, actually. Like I said, I'm out here in Saskatoon, and there's some large mining projects also on the books out here in Saskatoon that we've been talking to and working with some of the First Nation communities out here as well. So very excited for those opportunities. I've always said that, we're more so focused on breaking those silos and creating, opportunities and eliminating barriers. And as an Indigenous business, I will tell you, we have faced a lot of barriers, a lot of challenges, trying to grow our business. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a very straightforward and honest person. Cracking the mining sector has been extremely difficult for us as a business. It's only been the last year or so where we've been given an opportunity, and I have to give a shout out to my folks at Pure Gold and Heart Gold for giving us the opportunity and taking the chance on an Indigenous business, and we are extremely grateful for that. And so we say Chumigwetch for that. I'm confident saying that they're going to come back and say, we're servicing them quite well, and their confidence in us seems to grow on a daily basis. But like I said, we've been very fortunate through business, and we've created our own opportunities as well. We've partnered with a company out here in Saskatoon that's looking to move and grow with us in Central Canada. The company is Mine Supply Co. So we're very proud of that partnership. Because like I said, it's all about collaboration, right? We all, I'm going to say a little bit more here in my presentation, but it is about collaboration. And one of the things that I've been sharing within our Chamber of Commerce is that, post-COVID, whenever that is, and there's a lot of excitement about what's taking place out there in our region, that, we want to be a part of this growing economy. We really want to be a part of it. We want to, also take advantage of the prosperity in the region. And I think as we move forward, we've got to do that together and in collaboration and change the way we've been doing things traditionally. So like I mentioned, promoting change through action is my presentation, and I'm going to start the presentation here. But that's really what it's about, right? It's promoting change through action. We've been, seeing a lot of policy change, a lot of words, and in all honesty, a lot of false promises as Indigenous people. And, it's kind of been the course of history. However, we're very optimistic for what the future holds, very optimistic. I think, I've always been a true believer that, what gets measured gets done. And I actually delivered this presentation a few weeks back to the groups at the Canadian Institute of Mining Rocks and Stocks event. And one of the things that came up through that event when polling the folks in attendance was the fact that ESG as investors is one of their largest concerns. And for those of you who are not familiar with ESG, I'm sure you've heard about it the last couple of days, but it's the environmental, social governance. And when I talk about the social side of things, we as Indigenous people are one of the big pillars within the social side of business. So again, it's about action, right? We want to be a part of the action plan going forward, and not just to be consulted with. We want to be an active participant. We want to seat at the table. We want to be a part of the solutions, the resolve, right? And I come from the perspective that, I will not pose a problem with you if I cannot also provide or propose a solution. It may not be the right solution, but it's a framework for a solution, and that's really what it's about, right? So I don't believe in dumping my problems on somebody's table and saying, here, you deal with it. We want to be a part of the solution. And I'm confident in saying that many of our nations and our business folks are all about that. We want to be a part of the future planning. We want to be a part of the resolve. So like I said, our presentation is about promoting change through actions. So earlier this month, you may have heard the story of the Blueberry River First Nation court case that was won out in Western Canada, out in BC, and it really was a precedent-setting decision, right? Where it was ultimately the province of BC and the Blueberry First Nation arrived at a settlement for the value of 65 million, and this to support the restoration of the land and cultural practices within that land. And right away there was a thought that this is going to crush development and gas projects and forestry projects and mining projects. But for those of you who are familiar with it, it did the complete opposite, right? It ultimately changed the dynamic of how business is being done with the nations out in BC, and it's growing and it's evolving. And it's again, that court case and that win for the nation ultimately meant an opportunity to participate, which all we've ever asked for was participate, right? And and in this statement here within this slide by Supreme Court Justice Emily Burke, said the province's power to take up land is not infinite and must be exercised in a way that upholds the promises and protections within the treaty, right? And the treaty ultimately is a contract, and we've lived by those contracts since they were negotiated, right? And there's a multitude of contracts, and that contract is a contract and a contract between all of us. So we are all treaty people when you think about it, right? And that's the context we come from as Superior Strategies in our team. We are all treaty people, right? It's a contract. And I think ultimately within that definition, it really is about meeting the intent of that contract. I use this example, and it might sound a little corny, but I've been married 25 years, right? And I've been married 25 years. Been with my wife since high school. And if I only asked her to join me for dinner and events, I probably wouldn't be married 25 years. If I only brought her out and around when it was convenient for me, I don't think she'd stick around. and that's that's the way I believe we as First Nation feel oftentimes when it comes to development. is that we're left on the outside looking in most times. And then, oftentimes we're asked to participate at the 11th hour. Then, companies can't understand the public perception, based on media coverage is that, the Indigenous folks are against development, and we're made to look bad. But, the perspective really is that, if I had a 150-page contract, I showed you 10 pages of it and said the other 140, just leave it with me. I'll tell you what's good. If you don't worry about the other 140 pages, I'm sure you wouldn't feel right about that as well, right? So that's where I'm kind of coming from, is that, we want to be a part, we want to be an active participant, where information is shared so that, there's a level of transparency that people, and building the relationship, right? And I think oftentimes that's where we feel left out, and it's like Big Brother telling you, we'll take care of you, just listen to us, we'll tell you what's good for you. And that, has not worked, and it will not work, as you all know. So what I was mentioning is that, with the Blueberry River First Nation here, there was a thought that, this agreement would end and stall projects, but it did the exact opposite. It saw the restart of 195 forestry and oil and gas projects that had been placed on hold due to court rulings, right? So when you think about that, you think about, when you're not provided with information, you're left with very minimal information. You don't have a lot of knowledge. You've been excluded for so long. Oftentimes the first instinct is to fight, right? Not be collaborative. It's to fight, because you don't know. The fear of the unknown is oftentimes, what motivates that response to fight. And I was asked my opinion before, during that same conference I presented at last time, was how do you think that we should move forward to help expedite these projects so they don't get stalled when they're shovel ready. And my message was quite clear. It was engage our people. When you're ready to start investing that first dollar into that project, we know the life cycle of a project is 10 years from initial planning to shovel ready is about 10 years. When you're first planning to invest that first dollar, engage our people, right? And it really is a communication process where it's very transparent. We have a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn as projects are developed, right? All aspects of it. We need to be engaged in all aspects of it. And I think that really is about building that partnership and building that relationship. Oftentimes, when we as business people are sitting there talking about, we're talking about dollars and margins and profits and all that. Those are conversations that are not had in the community oftentimes, right? We're still learning. We're still learning to become, really business focused. We've been subdued by the Indian Act forever and a day, and that's honestly how a lot of our communities still operate within the colonizing disadvantages of the Indian Act, right? And we're still learning to adapt. And there's a lot of forward-thinking nations out there that are really developed, but a great majority of us are still bound by, the limitations that the Indian Act has put upon us, right? The history of our people and what colonization has done to us is quite it's quite devastating. From the fact that even from agriculture perspective, like our people, because when we started succeeding in ag, they started preventing us from selling crops, selling the fruits of those harvests, because the non-Indigenous farmers were complaining, and that's the history. It's right across the board, right? So again, we are more about building relationships. We have a lot to learn, but we are definitely an eager and interested group in participating. I've said this, and those of you who know me, I've always said we are not anti-development. We are anti-exclusion. And like I said, I created a variety of different businesses, and I did it from the perspective that, I'm going to make it very easy to do business within the Indigenous business. We're here. We want to be a part of it. And I'm also very proud to say that, we grew our business from 2 people with no capital to 1 contract, and 12 years later, we're 40 employees, We're doing over $4 million in revenue and still looking to grow. But I'm very proud to say that of these 40 employees, the majority are Indigenous and the majority are female. So we walk the talk when it comes to inclusion, and I'm happy to work with partners and assist and really about promoting change through action, right? It really is. I would be, it's just in business, integrity is key, and we wouldn't have the success we have had if it wasn't for walking the talk. And that's why I say we are not anti-development, we're anti-exclusion. And we want economic prosperity. We want to create a future of hope for our people, right? And that's really what the Warrior brand and Warrior Supplies and everything we do, it's all about. We are a business that operates in the private sector, but I think our mission is more social than anything. Like I said, I some people call me crazy, and maybe I am, but I use this analogy. I said, I'm not afraid to be broke. I've been broke. I grew up on craft dinner and wiener water soup. I can still set a snare wire. I can still shoot a moose, still catch fish. So I'll never truly be broke. So I'm always willing to take that opportunity, right? But one of the things we're challenged with is that when you've been excluded for so long and you want to share with our people, the vision of hope, right? The vision of the future will be better, and I truly believe that. But we have to demonstrate that, right? We have to give people hope, and it's creating opportunities through mentorship and enacting policy, not just writing policy and putting it on a piece of paper, but enacting policy. I think that is the most important part of it all. Like I said, we are some of the most highly trained people out there within our communities. I've been a part of a lot of training projects, and I really, from the time we started in business, we've seen this perspective of training for the sake of training. And I don't believe in it. I believe in training for opportunity. There has to be careers at the end of these training opportunities, right? And I think that mindset has to change, right? Oftentimes I have industry coming to me and say, well, how do we engage with the First Nation? And I'm of the perspective that, we're people just like everybody else. It starts with a relationship. We do our cultural awareness training, and one of the things we promote is, the 3 cups of tea. Start building that relationship and building that sense of trust. And I really think that is the key to moving forward, right? Is building up that sense of trust. And again, we got to give our people hope, right? Simply changing policy is not going to create action, right? We need to demonstrate actions. We need to have measurable targets. I've been a part of conversations where organizations said, we changed our Indigenous procurement policy, we changed our Indigenous hiring policy, but nobody's applying. We're not finding businesses out there. And really my message is you got to dig deeper. It's not just about a policy, it's about changing an organizational culture. And that's really what it is, right? It's like no different than health and safety and everything else. You want a culture of health and safety, you have to walk the talk. And it's the same thing with Indigenous inclusion. You want to build allies, you want to build friends, you want to create a workforce. It's really walk the talk, right? I don't want to sound like doom and gloom, because that's not my perspective, but I've been a part of a number, and as many of you, I've been part of a lot of procurement talks, presentations by various minds and power projects, and where you hear the message about inclusion. We want to work with the Indigenous people, and honestly, oftentimes we don't see it. And that's the honest to God truth. We don't see it. Things are improving, I will tell you. We got some great partners, like I mentioned, Pure Gold, Heart Gold, Gold Shore Resources. Gold Shore Resources, hats off to these fine folks. My buddy Pete is very much about, ESG is something that he walks and talks every day. And he really is about working with the First Nations and doing things right. Are the people going to trip up, including myself? Yeah, we make mistakes. We're human. But learning from those mistakes is the important part of it, right? And again, it's through these actions that really are going to, drive change, right? Like I said, I think, I'm very proud to see a number of my colleagues here today presenting, because we all share that same message, right? We got a great group of people, and that's, honestly, one of the reasons why we formed the ABPA was that, we want to show our people the path forward is very positive. There's a lot of prosperity to be had, but we also want to do it from the Indigenous perspective and really recognize and value our culture. You know, I often laugh and kid, and I do it kind of tongue in cheek, where I am the Indian that the government wanted. However, what they fail to realize is that, you know, the Anishinaabe blood that flows through my brain, my veins are very powerful, and I'm always about giving back to my people. And like I said, we really, you know, again, we want to be prosperous. We want to be a part of projects from the onset, you know, not just construction, the operation and maintenance of and closure and all that. You know, and I will, you know, I'll challenge each and every one of you to try doing something a little different than what you've been doing in the past for inclusion, right? Please measure your results. Please engage with our people. We want to be a part of this. We do have a lot to learn. I have a lot to learn still. I'm learning every day and I love it. But, you know, we really are pro development. And I think, you know, that, you know, the future is much brighter. I said the windshield is much larger than the rear view mirror because the future is so bright, right? We never forget the past, and that's why you have the rear view mirror. But the future is very bright. And that's why it's exciting to be a part of the conference. And I was talking to Kevin before I jumped on here. You know, he was saying that the attendance has been tremendous. And I apologize, I'm in busy out here, but that's great to hear, because that excitement is what's going to, you know, lead to a wealth of opportunities for our people, our businesses, you know, and not just the same old businesses that are prospering, but prosperity for everyone. It's going to be my next campaign pitch: prosperity for everyone. I'm just joking. Anywho, I'm going to end my presentation here now, and yeah, I'm happy to take any questions.
You caught me with a mouthful of bagel there, Jason. You caught me off guard. You ended so abruptly. Thanks for that. Jason, thank you. You know, I've had the good fortune of being connected to a number of events like this, and have had the honor of doing some projects with several First Nations organizations, including Mushkegowuk Council and Five Nations Energy and Wawate over the past couple of years. And your one slide, that should be the cover of just about every presentation that I think is out there. We're not anti-development, we're anti-inclusion. And it's so powerful. It's such a powerful message. And I know that to be the case, but it's not necessarily the predominant viewpoint, if you will, that's out there. And there's the conflict between, I'll call it traditional thought processes and reality, if that's a fair assessment. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair. Like I mentioned in my presentation, you know, we all know the role media plays in a lot of this stuff, right? That's what sells story is the it makes news is that kind of combative type nature, I guess, sometimes. But like I mentioned earlier, you know, oftentimes the first response is to fight, right? When you don't have all the information, and it's rather unfortunate, but it is the case, right? And that's why I say, like, if we can be involved early on, right? Early on the project, once the initial planning starts, bring our communities in, you know, engage us. We want to be a part of the development, right? Like I said, I've been married 25 years, and if I only brought my wife in when I needed her to do something for me, she probably wouldn't be around for very long. I know I wouldn't, right? And that really truly is the perspective, is that,
yeah,
you know, it is a relationship, and you have to grow that relationship. And you know what? I think, you know, any business who's doing business with the First Nations, you know, would understand this perspective that, you know, once you get in, you form that relationship and that you form that sense of trust, you know, everything just blossoms from there, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the case, right? And I think even with successful mining developments, once that relationship is grown, it's tight, and it's everybody's happy relationship. Is it always everybody singing Kumbaya? No, but I mean, it's all about that relationship where you can, you know, it's okay to have a disagreement, right?
Yeah.
My wife and I, right, we have disagreements. It's often my fault, but you know, we have disagreements. But
Well,
that's the case, right?
You also raised, I think, you know, a very valid point as well, that nobody's perfect.
No.
Nobody's perfect.
No.
Non-Indigenous contractors are not perfect.
Mhm.
The non-Indigenous workforce is not perfect. So what's the lesson in all of that for everybody that is participating in the procurement world and these negotiations that sometimes can get emotional and sometimes can get heated, and people walk away from the table and it doesn't solve the issue. It adds fuel to that anxiety that is out there.
Mhm. I think ultimately you have to be impeccable with your word, right? Again,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of false promises out there, right? If you're not gonna do it, don't say it.
Yeah.
And that's oftentimes what we see, right? Like, I'm one of those the folks where I will call a spade, and you know, um, one of the things I often challenge like the large financial institutions because they love to sponsor events and make donations, which is good. I said, but sometimes it can be almost it's demeaning, I guess, where what, why don't you try donating some training opportunities or donate some jobs, because that's where you build that capacity is through opportunity, right? And like I said, oftentimes I walk into the banks in Thunder Bay and I don't see a lot of my people working behind the till or handling finances and loans, right? And that includes around the board table, right?
Yeah.
How many Indigenous people do you see around the board tables? And that really has to change. In my previous jobs I had before, focusing on my business, was we were doing maintenance shutdowns, and I'm the kind of person, like, I don't know why my head thinks this way. It does what it does, but I'm sitting there watching 300, 400, 500 people walk through the gates of this facility, and I'd seen very few Inish people walking through those gates, right?
Mm.
And like I've always said, and this is one of the reasons why we started the Warrior brand. I said our people are not lazy people. We just, lack of opportunities, right? We oftentimes have to deal with barriers, whether it's nepotism or whatever in the workforce, and that's changing, but
Yeah.
this change is not going to happen overnight. Even for the procurement folks, right? I often say, and I don't know if this is the case. Maybe it's me assuming. I probably shouldn't assume, but I think there's, from my perspective, anyways, that I think, when they're working with an Indigenous business, like I'm an Indigenous supply company. I'm 100% Indigenous owned.
Yeah.
And it's not a JV. It's me investing, all my own dollars into this business, right? And I think oftentimes there's maybe an assumption that what you're going to get from us is second, third, fourth class type service. And oftentimes our customers, when they see it, they're very more than happy, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that was really disappointing for me, and it was a local mine that when the pandemic first hit, because it ultimately changed our business. We had access to hand sanitizer and masks early on. And I was moving so much product and getting it out to people that needed it. But my supplier was moving a lot of product. And he's like, well, Jay, I need cash before I send this stuff out. So I was out there. And then as a supply company, I was probably about 2 months out from closing my doors because I wasn't making a dime. I was losing money left, right, and center. When we started moving hand sanitizer and COVID related products, it was payment at time of sale. And it's one customer that was a new customer, one of the local mines. They basically give me crap. They said, no, our payment terms are 60 days. We don't want your business. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I said, you haven't spent $1 with me to date. Yet you want me to, give you 60-day payment terms. And
Yeah.
so anyways, we end up selling it to them. We worked out the payment terms. But what was more disappointing?
Well, and not to interrupt,
Yeah,
but that then you become the bank, right? You
yeah,
become the,
exactly. Oh yeah,
and
exactly. And it's not. I don't think it's no surprise that capital has always been a challenge for our people,
Mhm,
right? It
mhm.
always has been, and me included. And one of the things that was really disappointing though about all that, even it was one of the companies that they talk about inclusion, and what was really disappointing from my perspective was that as soon as their regular supply chain solidified product, guess who was the first one kicked to the curb?
Mm,
And that was disappointing from my
mm.
perspective, right? Like you hear this talk, and that's honestly like when I got into it, that's why I invested money into the supply business. I'm like, well, I'm doing health and safety training. I already got customers that I'm servicing, so health and safety supply seemed to be a natural fit. Maybe I'm a fool, maybe it wasn't. But anyway, that's the way I went, because I'm hearing like everywhere I went, where's the Indigenous businesses? Where are they? We want to work with the Indigenous businesses. So And so we invest in the company. And I don't go out there telling everybody you have to work with me. You owe it to you. I don't know. I don't believe in that. My perspective has been, invite me to the dance. Give me an opportunity to dance. I don't want anything more than an opportunity. Right. And I think we're all in that same boat, right? I don't expect handouts. I've worked for everything I've got. I've been very fortunate in life, and I'm happy to work for it. And I don't want handouts, but please give us a fair shot. And I think that's all anybody can ever ask for, right? You, I, doesn't matter what walk of life you come from, what color of skin, all you want is a fair opportunity, right?
Yeah.
One of the things too, and I'll share this with you. I know, it really is the motivation that, when the children, burial sites were found across Canada here, that is motivation to make things better in the future.
There's a wake-up call. There's a wake-up call
really
for
is.
everybody.
It really is. Like I said, the children that were lost, the survivors, I said the future has to be different. And I think that really is the message, right? And there was a sentiment out there, I think from some Canadians that, well, you're not proud to be Canadian. No, never said that. We're still proud Canadians, but we were hurt, and I think that was sometimes for some people that message was lost. And that's still the same thing with even within the mining sector, is that we're not against mining development. We're really not. It's really about we want to work with you. Give us an opportunity, right?
There's a major summit here in Timmins tomorrow with the Minister of Northern Development, the Minister of the Environment, and a number of chiefs and leadership from Mishkegwa Council. And they're going to talk about those very issues. They're going to talk about the environmental protection. They're going to talk about responsible resource development. And they're going to talk about those relationships. And it doesn't happen that often, or it doesn't happen often enough in advance of projects. Glenn Drethart, the publisher of Canadian TradeX, and the producer of this 3-day event, wanted to convey to you his thanks for being a part of the presenter lineup, and the great job that you've done. And he'd be more than interested in making sure that he can feature you in an upcoming edition of Mining Life magazine. So please keep that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate it. Glenn's a great guy, a great ally, and that's that's what it's all about, right? We have like-minded people doing good things, and that's how change happens, right?
Glenn's been putting people together for close to 3 decades now through the shows and the mining magazine. It's not about building at some sort of media empire. It's about connecting people, and the relationships that have happened over the years have been pretty substantial. So I know that you did such a great job. We don't have a lot of questions up on the screen. Let me ask you one last question here before we take a break. It's not a sensitive question, but it's more a broad observation. Capacity building. When you're in a community that doesn't have a lot of employment, and you don't have a highway traffic act, so nobody has a driver's license, and in some cases, a lot of remote communities, people don't even have their social insurance number, and then they find themselves displaced for whatever reason. There's a real challenge there. What, in your mind, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but in your mind, what is part of the solution to be able to address those particular issues? Because it's quite troubling to know that often people will leave a community and end up someplace else. And rather than going back, they're homeless on the streets of Thunder Bay or Winnipeg or Timmins. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it truly is. Well, I think, one of the reasons that it can't be lost is that, whether you attended residential school or not, we've all been impacted by it. Every First Nation person across this land has been impacted by it. So it has had a really devastating effect on everybody, on every one of us. I'll share the story with you. My father never went to residential school, but one of the reasons why, and this story was common, that when his family heard that the planes coming in, that's why the Norseman plane has a different perspective from him. But when he heard the Norseman plane come in, his parents told me you have to run and hide. You go hide deep in the bush, and we will find you when the bad guys are gone. And that honestly has led to a lot of challenges, right? It's led to a lot of challenges for people, dealing with mental health issues and addictions and all that. And it really, it stems, and it's been a legacy of struggle. However, the path forward, I believe, is through mentors. It's through action. It's having patience, right? And I really believe that, in order for people to have success, you have to be healthy, mind, body, and soul. And, and having people work, if it's a mining development or any type of infrastructure development, it's having the patience, but also creating mentors. We got a lot of good people out there that have taken a lot of great training programs, and these people become mentors, right? Seeing our own people in the uniforms, in different positions, and that inspires, right? That truly inspires, and it is contagious. And I think if anything, that's really what it is. Having seen someone, as an engineer who's Indigenous and wants to talk to our youth and share the stories and share the path forward, that's really ultimately what it's about. Because we all know, and I don't care that this is not, specific to any ethnic group, but the path to the better parts of life are often far easier to get than the better aspects of life, right? And we have to really change that, right? Like I said, that's where it is, eliminating barriers and trying to make things easier. And really, if something's not working, try a different path, right?
It's called it's one is a way to describe. It's called the ant philosophy. If you see an ant and you put your foot down in front of it, what's it going to do? It's going to go around.
It's going to go around.
You put your foot in front of it again, what's it going to do? It's just going to go around.
Exactly.
And I heard
exactly.
and I heard a phrase yesterday that I think is relevant to your chat, and we're going to wrap up things here in a moment. Is that success is on the other side of hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's hard to get there. But if you're willing to go through all of those steps, like yourself, establishing the companies that you did, coming from the background that you did, getting to the point where you are, to say, okay, all right, and be one of the phrases that a company I'm connected with at the moment, fiercely unafraid of being imperfect.
Exactly.
So that at the end of the day, you learn from your mistakes. Because guess what? There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of mistakes going forward.
Definitely. What's so funny though, Kevin, is this. My wife, I was talking with her this morning. She says, "Jay, what do you want for supper today when you get home?" I said, "All I want is a bologna sandwich. Can you make me a bologna sandwich? That's all I would. I love to have a bologna. Again, the simple things in life. Yeah, awesome. But that's really what it's about, right? It's what? It costs you $0 to be a good person, a decent person. And I'm not talking salt of the earth. I'm talking decent person. Treat people with integrity, respect. Right? It's not that hard. Right? So
absolutely,
and that's good. You're making me jealous here now with that sandwich. So.
that was my lunch, Jason, and that's what you were interrupting. I said bagel. I didn't want to say bologna sandwich.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Jason, thank you so much for just a delightful and very enlightening chat this morning. I've been looking at the counter clock here of participants, and nobody's gone anywhere. We've had a great group here all morning. So thank you for your presentation this morning. Thank you for being a part of Mining the Northwest, and I know that we're going to hear a lot more from you and your colleagues in the future.
Awesome. Miigwech, Kevin. It was truly a pleasure.
Miigwech. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks. So we're going to take a short break and for approximately 15 minutes, and we're going to be back at the bottom of the hour with Brian Davey of the Anishinaabe Development Fund. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you shortly for our final presentation of Mining the Northwest.